There's an unfortunate trend happening. We've seen it in movies, and unfortunately, it's actually a real life issue. A lot of couples have a decent marriage up front. Mm-hmm. They have kids, and the 20-something years that it takes to get all their kids out of the house go by. And then once all the kids have left and they're empty nesters, they get divorced. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like by the time that the kids are gone, they're like, I don't know you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I was just talking with someone recently, and they were telling me about a friend of theirs who they moved out of the house and kind of moved on with life, but their parents were having some major issues. Mm. And the reason they were having major issues is they'd always had kids in the house. They got married young. They were pregnant, so they got married. So it's always been about the kids.
Yeah.
Well, now the kids are gone, and so they're kind of figuring out we have nothing in common because they didn't work on that. And so it's really sad because in my mind I'm thinking it's going to take a lot of work for them to overcome that, or we're going to see another marriage end in divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. You cannot build your marriage around kids. And that happens, like that's the easy path because kids have no problem being the center of your world.
Yeah.
In fact, they assume they already are.
They do.
They're like, hey, you have no other purpose in life than to take care of me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they do. They think that.
But the issue is if we let that be the trend, if we let that be the lifestyle that we live, that's where it ends up.
Yeah, and it does a lot of things. One, it'll hurt the marriage. Your marriage won't last. But then it hurts the kids.
It does.
Because they grow up thinking they're the center of the universe. And we've all seen those videos of kids who are older who think like that.
Yeah.
You know what? Everything doesn't work out the way I want.
Yeah.
Because in their family, it always worked out the way they wanted. And that's just not healthy.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so what we see there is mixed up priorities. And we have to realize that if we want to be successful dads, if we want to be successful parents, we have to have a good marriage. So we're going to talk about some of the principles of why that is and how to do that on today's episode.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast. I am Reese.
And I'm David.
And he is my dad. And today we are actually talking about fatherhood. We're talking about what it takes to be a good dad. And as we brought up in the intro, really the foundation of a good home is a good marriage.
It is.
The best illustration that I've thought of up to this point, you can almost picture it like a reverse pyramid. If you are just listening to the audio of this, you can go to our YouTube and check it out, or just visualize this with me. The bottom level of the pyramid, so like an upside down pyramid.
Yeah.
The bottom level, the absolute foundation, is a healthy you. Then that is the foundation for the next layer, which is a healthy marriage. And that's the foundation for the next layer, which is a healthy family, healthy kids, healthy grandkids. That's the foundation for a healthy church/community. And then that's the foundation for a healthy nation.
Yeah.
So it all starts with us, like we talked about last episode. And if you haven't heard that, go listen to it. Some real practical stuff there. But now we're to the next layer. If we want our kids to be successful, if we want our family to be successful, we need our marriages to be successful, because that's what gives our kids the foundation that they need so much in life.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Today, a lot of people focus on their children, and you should. The children are very important. As a dad, you want to mentor them, you want to help them. But the most important thing you can do for them is to have a good marriage. Do the work to have a strong, healthy marriage. If you have a strong, healthy marriage, you're most likely going to have strong, healthy kids. It's not a guarantee, but the percentages are much more in your favor.
Yeah, the statistics will be on your side.
Yeah, they'll be on your side. So what you want to do is, as a man, work on you, grow you, but then also you want to begin to work on your marriage. You and your wife doing what you need to do to have a healthy marriage.
Yeah, and the kids being the center of the household, when you look at the grand scheme of history, I feel like it's a pretty recent phenomenon. If you look back at like biblical times or even in like medieval periods, adults were the ones who got the focus.
Yeah.
And kids were more seen as the future, the
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah.
But a kid can't contribute much in the moment, so they weren't seen as like that big of a deal. I don't know when it happened, but everything kind of flipped upside down eventually
Yeah.
to where like now, and for decades at least, it's been almost like we worship young people.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
worship, the high schoolers, man. Man, high school's the coolest.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that movie? Grease or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah,
Back,
Grease.
like the high schools were all being cool.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
not.
the case. I mean, kids are great. I think you should still love your kids and
Yeah.
care for them. But we have to recognize that if they become the center of the world, they don't even know who they are yet.
Yeah, and that's where when we talk about the marriage, what we're saying is when you secure your marriage, you're really securing the family.
Exactly.
Because the reality is your marriage is the family.
Yep.
You and your wife are the family. Your kids will join the family, but then one day they're going to leave the family.
Exactly.
And they will go start their own family. It's the way it was designed. It's normal. It's natural. But your relationship with your wife as a man, that's the key to a healthy family. And I think you're right that sometimes we get our focus on, well, I want to focus on the kids. I want to help the kids. Well, you help the kids by making sure your marriage is strong.
Yeah, you don't do it at the expense of your marriage, because one of the best foundations for your kids is the marriage.
Yeah.
If your kids are questioning if you guys love each other,
Yeah.
that's a big source of fear, insecurity, worry in their own life.
Yeah. In a way, we illustrate this is if you think of your marriage as a tree, you want to do all you can to make sure the tree is healthy. And what happens? The tree will bear fruit that is good fruit.
Yeah.
But if a tree is unhealthy, if it's dehydrated, if it's got some kind of fungus or whatever, the fruit will be bad. And what you want to do is put your kids in the best situation possible. How do you do that? You have a strong marriage. You focus on your marriage first. You say,
Yeah.
should I focus on my marriage more than my children? I'm not saying that it's an either or, it's a both and. Have a strong marriage, you're going to have better kids.
It's true.
Your kids, if your kids live knowing, oh, but yeah, my parents love each other. My parents are never going to divorce. Then you've just done a ton
To help them.
to set their security, to make sure they feel good about the family. You know, if they just assume y'all are going to stay together forever, good job.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want.
Yeah, I can think of this like for y'all, you and mom. I knew y'all were going to be together. And there was never a point where I started to question that.
Yeah.
And that really helped me. I never thought to myself, well, they love each other more than they love me, so I don't matter. It was more like they love each other more than they love me, and that's why I'm here. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Without that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I mean, it never was a source of insecurity for me.
Yeah.
But if it had been the opposite, it would have. If your parents hated each other, like if y'all were fighting all the time and,
Yeah.
battling, duking it out and talking about each other behind their backs, that would have been awful.
Yeah.
And so, but that's unfortunately the environment a lot of kids grow up in because we don't get this right.
Yeah.
And so what we're telling you, listener, is to work on this.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get this right, the kids thing won't happen well.
Yeah.
It just won't.
Well, and it's understanding one of the keys to having a great relationship is understanding that the relationship never stops. And this is where, as men, we're competitive. We want to win. I mean, right now we're watching the Olympics and seeing that, and you want to see America win and do all that. But here's the truth of it all. Getting married is not the end. Getting married is not crossing the finish line. It's the beginning of the race.
Exactly.
And so the race is your relationship with your wife, and it's always going to be growing. And what that means is you as a man have to always be pursuing that relationship. You say, why do I have to do it? It's the way it was designed. God designed us as men to be the pursuers. we should always be pursuing our wives. I would rather you pursue your wife than someone else. That's a problem.
Yeah,
And that can
that's-
really mess your marriage up.
Bit of an issue.
Yeah. But if your kids see you always pursuing a relationship with your wife, it's going to give them such a sense of security. They're going to be so strong in it. And I've never heard a kid say this to me. And I've worked with students for over 30 years. I've never heard a student say, man, my dad loved my mom too much. They were so in love, I hated it. No. Usually it's the opposite.
Yeah, on the outside they'll be like, "Oh, gross."
Yep.
But on the inside they're like, I mean, that's how it should be though.
Yeah. That's kind of what they want.
Yeah.
You know, every girl, if she sees her dad loving her mom, she's going to want a man who loves her like that.
Yeah, she has standards.
Yeah. And every boy is going to recognize, I need to do that to my wife. So you say, well, that's a lot of responsibility. Welcome to fatherhood. It is. But that's what we're created to do. You know, you want a challenge? Love your wife. Love your family. That's a big challenge. And when you do it well, it takes a lot of work.
It does.
It takes a lot of effort.
It does.
Because relationships never stop. And you have to understand that, because the way you pursue your wife also helps you pursue that relationship with your kids.
I think you're right. It's like whenever you do that with your wife, it sets that foundation to where you can do that with your kids.
Yeah.
You had this quote earlier. You said, "Dad are the instigators of relationships."
Yeah.
I think that's such a good quote because it's true. Like something that you did that always helped us, like you were interested in what we were interested in. And you and Mom invested time in what y'all both liked. Like y'all watched British murder mysteries.
Yes, we did.
All the time.
Yeah.
And eventually, once we got old enough to be interested, we jumped in and
Yeah.
it became family movie night. But
Yeah.
the foundation of it was the two of y'all.
Yeah.
Like I remember y'all would put us to bed. And if I, like, let's say had to go to the bathroom or had a stomachache or something and I came outside, y'all would either be drinking tea, talking, or you guys would be watching something together.
Yeah.
And that was, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was cool.
Yeah.
You know, that was cool to me as a kid to have y'all be the foundation of that time. And as we grew older, you invited us into that time.
Yeah.
We were, like you said earlier, welcomed guest,
Yeah.
you know? And now I've got a family of my own, like me and Emily are living in a different place and that's fine. But we came and we went,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's such a true principle.
Well, and dads have to get that. You want to be interested in what your kids are interested in. You don't want to force them to like what you like.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean you have to accept everything they do, because sometimes kids go in and out of things. But that's normal. They're kids. They're trying things out. So when you help them do that, then you're actually encouraging them to discover and find their own talents.
Yeah.
Like if your kid plays sports for 1 year and you say, okay, if you're going to do it, you got to stay in it a year. That's good. You're teaching them things. But then after that year, they're like, nah, it's not really my thing. And you say, okay, let's find what your thing is. They're going to remember my dad supported me.
Yeah, that happened with me in football. I played football. I mean, we went undefeated. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not a huge deal because it was 7th grade football. So it's a
Seventh
pretty
grade
big
football.
deal.
It's huge.
Pretty high level.
Yep,
D1 level.
Yeah.
But I loathed going to practice every day. I hated it. And you helped me stay consistent.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, I was done. And you played football all the way through high school
Yeah.
and a little bit in college. And I never felt the pressure to get back into it because, that was Dad's thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about much about it at the time, but that was a big blessing because I'm just not, like, I play tennis. That's the
Yeah.
sport I like.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in football, and I'm not really built for it either. But I never felt the pressure to engage in it. So what
Yeah.
you did is you built a bridge to where I was at instead of trying to drag me to where you were at.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important principle for us to get as guys. Pursuit isn't about control.
Yeah.
Same thing with your wife, because we'll bring it back to marriage. It's not about controlling your wife. It's not about making your wife to be what you want her to be.
Yeah.
It's about you meeting her where she's at and you loving her as she is. Now, if she wants to grow or whatever, you help her, but you're not going to drag her to that place and say, hey, you're going to do what I tell you to do. And that's an unfortunate other kind of archetypal
Yeah, it
is
is.
like hey, you just do what you're supposed to do, in my eyes.
Well, and for men, the way we are designed is they talk about men being aggressive, men being this, men being that. That's a natural state. Why? Because we were created to be the relational pursuers.
Yeah.
So you have to pursue the relationship with your wife, and you have to pursue the relationship with your kids. You're the one building the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, what about my kids? You're showing them how to do it. So one day when they're the parent, they do the same thing. It's the example you're setting. So when I'm pursuing a relationship with my children or my wife, I'm building a bridge that then we can connect and communicate and do all of those things. And I'm building a strong relationship. And it doesn't mean you have to love every little thing you do. Like every guy knows, sometimes you go out with your wife on a date for her.
Yeah, you're going to go to Hobby Lobby,
Exactly.
and she's going to be so pumped.
She will be.
And you're going to be, to be frank, bored out of your mind at the topic. But you can enjoy the time with her.
Yeah.
And that's the key right there. It's
Yeah.
like, I may not love what we are doing,
Yeah.
but I love being with you. That's what that communicates.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Well, and then she reciprocates that, like maybe going to a sports game with you.
Yeah.
Maybe she's not into football, but you are, but she goes to the game. She wears the gear. She does all that stuff for you. And when your children see y'all doing that for each other, and then they see you doing it for them,
Precisely.
it's teaching them how to do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's little things that you do with your family, like with your sister when she was young, Saturday morning was still cartoon time. We would watch cartoons that we did. You and I watched Recess together. I watched Kim Possible with her. I loved Kim Possible. It was one of my favorites. It was very well written.
It's a good
but
show.
But she remembers that to the day that I'm up there watching stuff with them. I made breakfast for us. That was me relationally pursuing them and not just sitting back and going, hey, come to me. You should get into what I'm into.
Precisely. And that's such a good principle. When it comes to a healthy marriage and to a healthy relationship with your kids,
Yeah.
pursuit is more about giving than it is receiving. And it's funny how that's what the Bible says.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it really is. Giving your time
Yeah.
is such a huge thing. And it won't always be glamorous.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the time, giving your time will not be glamorous.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed, like, looking back, because I'm a reflecting kind of person, I've gotten to the point where if it's a Saturday and Emily wants to go do something and all I want to do is be at the house.
Yeah.
I'm typically going to go with her.
Yeah.
And this is why. I won't feel like it in the moment. Then I'll end up enjoying it, and I will guaranteed be glad I did it afterwards. That's really what it's like to invest your time in with your kids or with your
Yeah.
wife. You get home, it's a Friday, your week was killer, you're exhausted, and your wife's like, hey, I got a sitter for tonight. Let's go do something.
Yeah.
You may honestly want to do nothing but sit on the couch and watch your normal show. But if you invest that time, I guarantee you will not regret it. It's worth it.
Yeah, and you never hear kids when they reflect on their life with their parents. You never hear them, you rarely hear them say, oh, my dad spent too much time with me. Now, if you were controlling and were trying to make them something they weren't, then that's not good.
Yeah,
because
that's
you're
not giving.
Yeah, you're not building a bridge. You're expecting them to come to your side and do what you want them to do. And again, I'm not saying the child is in control of everything. What I'm saying is you as a parent, as a dad, you're saying, I am intentionally giving my time to you. If you want to play this game, we'll play this game. If we want to go for a walk, we go for a walk. I'm doing things to spend time with you. I think couples should still date even after they get married. I think it's healthy for your marriage. And then as your kids get older, you start dating them. You don't necessarily call it a date,
That'd be weird.
but
Yeah.
you do stuff where, hey, let's go do this together. I'm going to take you by yourself and we're going to go do this.
Exactly.
Your kids remember that. Why? Because you gave them time that was individual and focused, and that's going to help them be better in everything.
Here's a great example. I am a history nerd. That's just part of who I am, especially ancient history. But history in general interests me. I remember one time it was my birthday, and you checked me out of school early, like at maybe noon or something like that. And we went to Vicksburg, and we went to like the Civil War Museum.
Yeah.
That is not like a glamorous thing.
Yeah.
Like that's not like I took my kid to Vicksburg Civil War Museum.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not going to go brag about that to other dads. But I remember that.
Yeah.
And I was probably in like 6th grade or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a way that you invested time in me because I didn't think about it at the time, but that was free time for you.
Yeah.
If it was a Friday or if it was a different day of the week, that means you took hours off
Yeah.
to go do that. And
Yeah.
that's investing time and attention. You were meeting me where I was at.
Yeah.
And that still makes a difference in my life today.
Yeah.
I think attention wise, we almost have to be more careful in our marriage than we do with our kids because our kids will virtually demand attention.
Yeah.
They will be like, pay attention to me. You know,
Yeah.
they'll jump on you.
Yeah.
But our spouse, she won't do that typically.
Well, and it's life, especially if you have kids, life gets so busy. You're running here to there. You've got the calendars, you've got the practices. You can do those things. And what happens is a couple, because they both have different gifts,
Right.
different abilities,
Right.
they form a natural partnership. And that's good, but you have to remember you're not just partners. You're not in a business transaction. You're a couple. You're supposed to be in love. You're supposed to be married. You're supposed to be lovers in every way. So that's why you want to intentionally do that, because it's very easy to unintentionally let your kids take over, let other things get your attention, your business deal, your job, whatever,
Yeah.
to where we kind of get used to each other as a married couple.
That's such a good point. You cannot take your wife for granted.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens whenever
Yeah.
you get in partnership mode and you're just trying to survive. You know, there's
Yeah.
the 17 sports and
Yeah.
the 3 different things your business is called about. You get into this mode where you take your wife for granted. And that's something you have to fight.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
have to actively fight it because it's the natural way of life when you're in that zone.
Yeah. And I really think, I just thought of this, and you can add to this if you want, but it's almost like your relationship with your wife has 3 areas. There's the partnership area, which
Yeah.
is real. The adulting life stuff has got to
Yep.
happen.
Yeah.
There's the friendship area,
Yeah.
where you guys just enjoy being together, spending time together. And there's the romantic area, which is like the classic, I mean, what you had before you even got married.
Yeah.
You know, most of
Yeah.
it was romantic, but you need all 3.
Yeah.
You do need to be good life partners, but you also need to be best friends.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to still contribute to that romantic area.
Yeah.
If you only fall into one category, you'll really get into trouble because
Yeah.
it becomes an anemic relationship.
Yeah, it will be. And that's what the thing you have to understand as a man. It's our job to keep that fresh.
Yep.
And when you do that, it's going to be amazing how much more your children are secure, your marriage is secure, your wife will love you. You know, I've heard guys say all the time, well, my wife won't do this or that for me. And a lot of times it comes down to, you know, well, we never have sex. Well, if you don't have sex, it's because you're not meeting a need emotionally a lot of times, and you're not doing the things to intentionally build that relationship to where the romantic feelings are there, the love is there, and those things will happen.
Yep.
And so what you want to do is make sure those are happening. And you say, well, that's hard. Yeah,
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
Welcome to being a man. Being a man is tough. And we're the ones who fight wars. We're also the ones who fight for our family. We fight for our relationship. And no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it. So what you want to do is understand that and give that attention, give that work, do what is necessary. And as you do that, you'll see your family flourish in incredible ways.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is there's a lot more tools out there than there's ever been.
There are.
You
That's
know,
true.
and I guess we'll talk about that in just a second, but really it's looking for those fresh ways. And it's also recognizing these people are individuals.
Yeah.
If your friend tells you what he does with his wife, some of it you may be able to take,
Yeah.
and some of it may be completely irrelevant for you because your wife is a different person than their wife.
Yeah.
And that's good. Like you say it all the time, be a student of your children. It's the same thing with your wife. Be a
Yeah.
student of your wife because you will both evolve over time.
Yeah, you do.
I'm a different person than I was when I first married Emily.
Yep.
praise God, I'm better in most ways.
Yeah.
And she has grown too. In the past 5 years, she has flourished in ways that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
So I'm a student because I'm learning,
Yeah.
because she's growing, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a lifetime process, but you can enjoy that process.
Yeah.
Don't look at it as well, I gotta spend time with my wife and kids. You know,
Yeah.
we can shift our mentality a little bit and see it for what it is, which is a privilege.
Well, and it's kind of like going on an adventure. You know, when we're kids, we love going on adventures. We love walking in the woods and pretending we're on the other side of the world or something. And I think that natural ability is something we can bring to our relationships. You know, I get to help my wife discover her gifts, her
Yeah,
abilities. I get to
absolutely.
encourage her as a woman to
Yep.
grow and be better.
Yep.
I do the same thing for my children. That's kind of an adventure. It's kind of fun. You say, where's it going? I don't know. But hey, let's go do it. Well, that hits that itch we have as men for adventure.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that our family can provide that, even more so than a video game or a hobby or those other things. I'm not saying those things are bad. You can still do those things. But when you apply that sense of adventure to your family, you're going to see them begin to flourish. And then that's going to build a better, stronger home.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And so what we want to challenge you to do is make this practical. Get out a sheet of paper or a note on your phone, whatever you're going to be able to look at in the future. And we want you to write out 5 things you can do to start building a better relationship with your wife. Actually try. Let's get creative on this.
Yeah.
Let's not just be lazy and be like, I should be sweet. I should say nice things. I should be kind. You know,
Yeah.
come on. Let's do something good. Like if she writes, well, if she likes flowers,
Exactly.
maybe that's what it is. Or if she's a poetry kind of person. Or maybe she's if you clean something for her that normally she has to clean, that'll just light up her world.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, there's a lot of tools out there. The 5 love languages. I think they have an app. I think it's called Love Nudge. You can sign up with your spouse and see what their 5 love languages are. And even it'll give you ideas in each category.
Yeah.
Such a good resource. If you are not super creative with date ideas, or maybe you're just exhausted, the Adventure Date book.
Yeah.
It's about, I think, $40, but it's got dozens of date ideas, and they're all very creative. They're in different categories, and it's a scratch-off thing to where you and your wife get to have a sense of surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
What are we going to do today?
That's good.
That's really cool. Heck, use ChatGPT
Yeah.
and say, give me 100 creative date ideas.
There you go.
And it'll spit them out, and you can see which ones would actually be good for your
Yeah.
wife. There's a lot of stuff out there that's even free that can help us get creative with how to relate to our spouse.
Yeah, so we want to challenge you, do the work, and just start taking steps. Are you going to bat 1,000? No, you're not. Every date's not going to be great, but you know what? If your wife sees you trying and sees you not using it as a way to manipulate, as a way of just getting closer.
That's important.
You know, where she doesn't feel like, oh, he's doing this because he just wants sex tonight.
Yep.
No, do it because you just want to be closer.
Yep,
The
yep,
sex
yep.
will come. I can promise you it will. If she feels like you really love her, care for her, and are emotionally connecting with her, that'll take care of itself. But what you want to do is be the man, be the leader of the relationship, start doing something, and you'll see things happen with your wife, with your children. It'll impact you and really the community around you.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right. And I love what you said earlier. See it as an adventure. See it as like you're exploring. Every person has almost unlimited facets to who they are,
Yeah.
and it changes over time. You can either be frustrated by that and see it almost as a math problem.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like exploring. It's exploring an unknown land. And when you do that well with your wife, it sets the foundation to do that well with your children.
It will.
So if you want to be a good dad, be a good husband. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.